Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everybody. My name's Deb Herbert and tonight we have got a great panel called A Father to Look Up To. Thank you so much for joining, and we'd like to start off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the various lands and waters throughout Australia on which we are joining from today. And we pay our respects to elders past and present and emerging. As I said, my name is Deb Herbert. I'm from Reframing Disability, and I'll be hosting the panel discussion tonight. Feel free, if you are on either the chat function here in the webinar, or if you're watching on Facebook Live, that you can use the chat function to share your thoughts and reflections with any of the other attendees. And the chat will be moderated by Reframing Disability. We ask, of course, that we're all respectful of each other. We'll also use an otter, so there'll be live captioning for anybody that needs that. So I'm delighted to be joined by three fantastic men. Mello is part of our team here at Reframing Disability, and he's passionate and a lifelong learner, and he loves helping people the best that he can, and he wants the best for them too. He particularly is interested in assisting fathers to be better parents, partners and people, and he's passionate about contributing to help to make a difference with people and their families. We've also got John. John is, he was born in Adelaide and he moved to Sydney over 17 years ago for business and lives with his wife Lisa. They have two children, 11 and 9, and the eldest son was diagnosed with autism at an early age. And he also is on a path of learning and understanding autism, and is a passionate advocate for inclusion for all. Raj here, he's also a father of a 12-year-old daughter who is autistic. Professionally, Raj works as an educator in TAFE, and he strongly feels that fathers can and should play a significant role in the general well-being and overall development of their children. Being a father can often be central to a man's identity, and therefore life choices can be centered on who they need to be in order to be the best father they can to their children. According to Steve Biddulph, the psychologist, we do not make our children, we meet our children. And it takes communication, it takes effort, and lots of time to build a healthy relationship with them. Research is now indicating that in most situations, mothers are often the primary carer in the family of children with disabilities. But what about the role of fathers? Research is also suggesting that there is increasing recognition that children are more likely to be successful and achieve if fathers and mothers are fully and actively involved in their children's upbringing and development. And our panel today have lived experience, and they're going to share some of their thoughts around. They would say they're not perfect, but they're keen to have this discussion about being a father. Obviously, I'm the elephant in the room. I'm the odd one out. We were going to have Mello hosting this panel, but we thought, what a waste, we need to hear from Mello as well. So he's jumped in to be part of the panel. So let's go, gentlemen. John, I might throw to you first. So throughout your journey of fatherhood, do you recall a moment that was sort of a turning point for you where you changed your parenting path or the way you were approaching parenting?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Deb. As it was said in my bio, I was originally from Adelaide, so I'm a AFL fan. I won't mention the grand final on the weekend. Other panelists might get a little bit upset, including Mello. But I'm a passionate AFL guy. I played AFL as well. When I found out we were pregnant and then we had our son, I was adamant he was going to love AFL as much as I do, go to AFL games, etc. And several years in, when he got to an age where I thought it'd be appropriate, I took him to a game at the SCG. I thought it'd be a fantastic day. I saw it as a a lifelong passion that I could start for him. But I very quickly realised that the loud crowd was just not agreeing with him. He was covering his ears. He didn't want to be in the stands. And what I was hoping to be a fantastic day ended up being not a pleasant day, and we ended up leaving at half time, which was disappointing. But we did that because my son was quite upset and quite distraught with the loud crowds. And I must admit, I came home from that. There were other things that happened that kind of made me kind of think, what was I doing wrong? What was, why wasn't he enjoying AFL as much as I did? And it was actually the next day. My son is beyond a passionate train spotter. He knows everything about Sydney trains you could possibly think of. And he just got up the next day and he said, "Dad, how about we go train spotting today?" And I was okay with that. I was glad that he was kind of not upset like he was the previous day. As we jumped on the Sydney trains like we always do and just traveled the network. And it dawned on me at one of the stations that my son, he enjoys trains. That's what he loves to do. And I came to a definite realization that perhaps what I had in mind for him, my perfect idea in my mind, was not actually what he wanted. He wanted to enjoy trains. That was what kind of excited him and made him feel happy and comfortable not going to an AFL game. So that was a very pivotal point as being a new dad, that I realized that there is difference with having someone on the autism spectrum as a child, and that you've got to let go of what your preconceived ideas were. And it's not a failure. It's not being anything down as a father. It's meeting them on their level and doing things that they enjoy doing. And to me, that's really what underlines being a dad, is making sure that your kids are happy and they enjoy what they do. So that was a real pivotal moment for me.
And I think, with any parent, whether it's a father or a mother, there's things, you have these, like what you said, these preconceived ideas of what you're gonna, I can't wait till I do this with my child, or I can't wait till, I can go and kick a footy, in a field. Well, for some people, that's not possible. So we have these plot twists, don't we, that we need to adapt to. Mello, what about you? Where are you on this kind of idea of, a turning point, or is there anything that you want to add?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, John, as he was explaining, I was just thinking about the lens that we view our children through, and that was really quite significant for me. And it was a moment, I was doing a parenting program, and they asked us, I don't know, I still get upset about it, but they asked us, what are Victoria's strengths? And I didn't know. I didn't know what her strengths were. And it was just crazy because in hindsight, I know them now, but to me at the time, they were invisible. I was only just seeing her through the lens of everything that she couldn't do and all of the struggles that she had, and I believed that she was going to have. So for me, when somebody said, what are Victoria's strengths? And I just didn't know what to say. And then Ange said, my beautiful wife said, yeah, Victoria's very determined. And I thought, you're just saying that because you want to be a good mum and say something nice. And she wasn't being just a good mum, which she is. But Victoria is a very, very determined girl. But I couldn't see that. So yeah, that's a moment that just stays with me and still gets me a bit emotional, as you can see.
Yeah, I don't know whether we were, Mello, you and I were going to get through this without tearing up, really. I've been in a lot of rooms and you're very passionate about this subject. And Mello, I just realised, I don't think I actually introduced your family. Would you mind just doing a quick introduction so people out there? So Mello's part of our team at Reframing Disability, but sorry, Mello.
No, not at all. So I've got he's 12 today, my son Yanni.
Oh, happy birthday, Yanni.
It's been a great day. So Yanni's 12. and Victoria is 9, soon to be 10. And Victoria's got a number of, she's got an intellectual disability and a number of other physical challenges, but she's an absolute delight. And my beautiful wife, Angela. So yes.
Oh, thank you, Mela. So when you were both speaking, I was thinking about, I don't know whether you know this story, but there's a young guy called Rick Hoyts, and he is in the US, and he's a wheelchair user and has cerebral palsy and a mix of other things. And his dad, Dick Hoyts, and one time they were trying to work out, you know, Rick is highly intelligent, and he's been very successful, and you know, went through uni and did education and stuff. Just a fantastic guy. And he'd heard about somebody who was in his local town who'd been paralyzed in a car accident. And he spoke to his dad about doing like a 5K run. So his dad would push him. Have you heard the story? Do you know which one I'm talking about? And the dad had this moment where when Rick communicated with his dad how he felt when he was getting pushed. It said he didn't feel disabled when his father was pushing him. Yeah. And his dad just switched on like what you guys did and went, this is what we need to do. If he's switching on, and that's not to say that he's not proud of being disabled, but he said he just felt that he was part of it. And now his dad, you probably know, has run over 32 marathons, the Boston Marathon, etc., and is in Ironman triathlons and all of this kind of stuff, because his dad just connected and went, if this is my son and this is what he's saying, this is what we'll do. So Google him. It's quite a fascinating story. But do you want anybody want to jump in on that and speak to that?
Hey, I was just going to say, when you said that he when his father was pushing him, that he didn't feel disabled, what Victoria has given me is that that ability, dance like no one's watching, sing like no one's listening. She gives me the freedom to be silly, be crazy, and she loves dancing, she loves singing, and that's what we do. And obviously at the moment we do a lot of that at home, and you can be a lot more sillier. But she has given me that real joy in that connection that we have. So when you mentioned that, when he's doing that with his father, that's how he felt. There's certainly things, and that's true for, and that's not even disability specific. That's something, but there's joy to be had when you're connecting with your children.
It's across the board, isn't it? Like, it's the same with, my husband got dressed up as Lockie Wiggle, and we went to, I was Dorothy the dinosaur. Of course I was going to be Dorothy. My husband was Lockie. He had the curly wig on and the purple outfit, and we had a great, like, she still loves, and she was only small, loves looking at the pictures.
How could she not, Deb? Like, your dress ups.
I know. So Raj, I want to bring you in because you've been quiet. So as a parent of a child with development delays or medical needs, disability, it can at times be overwhelming. And, often, there's books and stuff, but there's no guidebook for your child because they're unique. So how do you learn to navigate things? And, what helped you learn to support your daughter with navigating systems and that side of things?
Yep, it was quite challenging in the beginning. So my story, or the story of my daughter, Mishti is her name. She's 12 years old now. Well, she was, when she was like for 1 year, she was developing neurotypically. So she was doing what the children of that age will do up until she turned 1. And after that, she started to regress. And so it was very difficult for us to understand what was happening at that time. She started to speak about 20 words by the age she was 1. And then she started to lose everything. So she lost all those words. And this was I think it was a dual shock for us at that time. And we could not understand what was happening and why it was happening. So what we had to do is to just do a lot of research, study, read about this condition, this autism condition. And that's what I did. Throughout nights, I would stay awake and I will just read, because I am in IT industry. I'm a teacher in IT, so I need to know. That's the thing. So I studied, read about it, and that's how it started to kind of make sense of what's happening. And at least we understood what the condition was. And then, of course, we had to seek help from support organizations and things like that. And I think it's very, very important that we get that kind of support at those times, especially for young new parents, new fathers. And so that's what I did, which helped us to at least navigate through these challenges. Yeah, that's what we did. And I think,
you know, it is. I mean, a lot of people, once you realize there's something, right, whether it's pre or post, or, you know, even as a young child, there's something. So a lot of people do read in and connect. What about you other guys? What was your understanding? What did you do to kind of connect in with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a Mr. Fix-It. I like to fix things. I don't know. I think it might be a bit of a dad trait that you just kind of want to fix things, make everything fine, everything happy for your family. So when my son was diagnosed, it was a shock, and obviously it's a case of kind of just understanding it and what it's about. I'm not like Raj. I'm not so much of a reader. I'm a doing person. I'm good with my hands, but I'm a doing person. So my wife Lisa, she took the lead tremendously, and I learned a lot from her. But then it was also similar to Raj, engaging in a lot of programs through Plumtree, Now and Next type programs, and understanding that you're not on your own, and that there are other parents, other dads out there also struggling with the idea of having a child with a disability or on the autism spectrum, and just understanding that, and that, the challenges you come up against, everyone's coming up against the same challenges. So once you kind of understand that, there is no Mr. Fix-It, there is no perfect answer. It's a case of understanding thing. It does relieve the pressure somewhat that you probably put on yourself. So
yeah, Mello, anything on this?
Yeah, actually, do you know, it's interesting. I think we all dive into trying to find out information about our child's condition and what we might be able to do. One of the significant, and it didn't happen early for me. It was another one of those turning point moments. And but to cut a long story short, it was the moment that I realized that there is no one size fits all. So no matter what I learned, I had to apply that to my daughter, and how I applied it to my daughter was going to be different to how somebody else would apply it to their child. And when I was doing that, that's when things were really starting to make a difference. The other thing that I would say around that would be, I don't think I was one that thought that I needed to connect with people until actually I realized how beneficial it was after I did. Knowing that you didn't have to reinvent the wheel, knowing that you could connect with people on a level that they could understand what you were going through without, whilst their journey was uniquely their own, that we sort of got each other. And we were connecting with each other, with other dads that had children with totally different disabilities. So it wasn't about, people that had a child with autism or Downs or any other challenge or need. We're going to, connect better with others. It was just about connecting with people that understood the struggle. And that was really, really powerful as well. That were the 2 points. There's no one size fits all, and you don't realize the power of connecting until, for me at least, after I did. And then and that's why I just think that the benefit of what that's done for me and the way that I've been able to support my daughter and my son, I should say, it's just made such an impact. I just realized that I was on autopilot with my son. And this more conscious awareness in the way that I was parenting Victoria has helped everyone.
Would you say it's almost triggered you to, be a better father to your son as well?
Oh, without Deb, I talk about the fact that I used to think that I was a good dad for Yanni. And now the way that I need to be to parent Victoria, I know that I'm a better dad for him also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there would be many people who would say that. You spoke about connection, and it's one thing that I think, men get a lot of hits from, society and stuff going, oh, men don't connect, and typically men don't this. Now,
can I just say, and probably rightly so.
Right. Well, I was going to say, is it rightly so, or is it just opportunities are different, or often, they're typically, men are out, being the breadwinner, so to speak, and especially in the disability world, the stats are that the women are often the ones that are at home, not always, but often are. What about people sort of in regional areas connection? Now, I know you run My Time, Mello. What, for Reframing Disability, for instance, how, what supports are there for people in when there's, and especially through COVID, and we'll go into COVID, I suppose, next, but
I would say one of the silver linings that has come out of COVID, and not just saying it because we should be, seeking out silver linings, but when you talk about regional, there's no doubt that they've got less services, they've got less choice, they've got less of everything, and the fact that we've been forced to use and become more familiar with Zoom. And so all of us, I know that initially I resisted it. I wasn't, it was like, no, don't think so. It's not going to work for me. But then as I used it, I realized, hey, you know what? It's actually, it's great. And so I think in that way, it's providing us with this opportunity to still connect. Now, is the connection going to be greater face-to-face? Yeah, maybe it is. But you're still connecting. And I think that that's one of the great things about Zoom, is that it's opened us to, it's forced us to use a tool that now we're realizing is beneficial. Yeah, I would say that, there's trainings where I've got people from other states and in some cases other countries that are joining. And I've done the same. So yeah, I love the fact that it brings us closer together.
Yeah, and there is you can gain lots of wealth and information from connecting. And I think, when we are talking about reframing disability, and mainly, we work within New South Wales currently, with, hopefully as funding comes and stuff, we'll go further afield. But, there is people that are, and fathers, interestingly, are connecting through My Time and other things to, and I'm certainly not doing a big plug for My Time, but it is a place where it's, for men and the obviously women ones and stuff as well. But so the COVID and around the difficulties around COVID, has being at home made you realise the level of support your partner needs, for instance, if they're the main caregiver at home? And have you got any plans in place when something happens that's unexpected, like COVID? Who wants to speak to that? Raj, do you want to?
Yeah, I can get on with that. So with COVID-19, of course, there are challenges, all kinds of challenges, but then there are some positives that you can see. That's what we have seen. So one of the things was that we got to spend more time with Mishti. And that is great for me as a father, because most of the time I used to be out at work. So I wouldn't have as much time to spend with her, but now I do. So what we are doing is we're spending time together, playing, exercising together, because we can't go out. So at home, we need to do some exercise. And so exercising in the playful mood or playful kind of thing makes us bond together. And yeah, so that makes the whole thing more positive than one would think in these challenging situations. Yeah.
And Melo, you're different again, because am I right in thinking that you're the main caregiver for Victoria?
Well, I'd prefer to say Ange is the main income earner. You know, I hope I'm not coming across that I'm doing so much because Angela's still doing so much herself.
Yeah.
But I think it just speaks to how important it is that we need each other. And is it easy? No. And that's why we need to turn to each other to make it less hard. It doesn't need to be hard. And I think that when you work together, yeah, you just share the workload, share the responsibility, share everything that it means to be a parent and to be a couple. And it's interesting, you know, Raj talked about you know, those opportunities that COVID is giving us to spend time with one another. And I think that's a beautiful point that so much of us are talking about. And I'm certainly not trying to downplay, and I think we need to be, you know, acknowledge how challenging COVID is, but let's not also forget that and somebody mentioned this you know, maybe a month or so ago. This is also an opportunity that no other parents have ever had, and perhaps no other parents may ever have again. We've, yeah, lockdown's not easy, but lockdown's given us this opportunity to connect with our children in ways that we would not otherwise have been able to. I think that sometimes we need to reassess, are we running to the old timetable, or are we actually being present in the moment? And there's another parenting program that I've just finished delivering, and it talks about being with your child. And is it a moment where you can allow your child to lead, or is it a take charge moment? And there's probably more take charge moments when you're rushing to go to an appointment, or you're rushing to go to work, or you're rushing, but we're rushing less now. So there may not be as many take charge moments, and there may be more moments for connection, for play. Yeah, so I think, yeah, what Raj was saying about those moments are just beautiful moments that we can take, and we should be taking and sharing with our children.
Yeah, I know my, I was chatting to my husband the other day, and it was about this panel, and I said, you know, and we were talking about COVID, and he said, when have I ever had 3.5 months? He actually did take some time off for both the children, because we were in a position for him to do so. So he took a Monday off, and he did the therapies, and he would take my daughter Elston to you know, like a disability play group. And but now he's saying, when can I do 3.5 months in a row where I stop and have lunch with my family, and I'm having dinner with them at an hour where I'm not stressed out because I've, quick, can you help the kids? And he's walking through the door into just, you know, things getting cooked, and, you know, so for him, I mean, yes, at times we both have meetings exactly the same time, and you've got 2 toddlers going, what do we do? Yeah. But he's like, for him, just that quality time and quantity time of stopping and just hanging with the kids during the day has just been, you know, he's really loved it. John, have you got anything on this that you, oh, Melo, go ahead. If you...
Can I just say, you just mentioned quality time. The other thing that, yeah, whoever's listening, and I don't even know who's listening. It just feels like we're having a conversation.
Yeah, we have no idea, do we?
You know, the other thing is that quality, all you need is a couple of minutes, a few times through the day is going to make the world of difference in a positive way. And like, if we're talking about genuine being present in those moments, they can just be so rewarding not only for our children, but rewarding for us. And I don't know what the actual figure is, but I think in the past there was some study about how much time parents, and I think it might have been dads, were spending with their children per day. And it was an embarrassingly low figure. And so, yeah, I think we've got this opportunity now to go beyond just reading, and it is through playing, whether it's singing or whether it's, just make believe or whatever it is. Yeah, and quality doesn't need to be quantity. A few minutes scattered through the day, I think we can all find those. But sorry, go back to.
And also just coming up with some fun ideas, right? At the dinner table, or whatever it looks like. For us, the other day, we my kids have a train track, like the wooden Thomas the Tank Engine kind of. This is not a plug for Thomas the Tank Engine, I should say. But Thomas the Tank Engine.
They want to spend some money. They're welcome to.
If they'll give millions to Reframing Disability, let's go with it. That's what I say. But and a couple of the engines, we've got batteries in, so we did a sushi train. So my husband set up the track on the table, and the kids loved it. Wow. We dumped a couple of sushi rolls in, and we had to wait for it coming around, and it was so much. I think my husband and I got a bit more out of it than the kids did as well. But yeah, John, anything on this? Anything from your end around, who does the main roles in your house? Like, is it broken down into any kind of system?
Both my wife and I work full time, so being in a lockdown in the middle of COVID has definitely got us challenges. I mean, we're both very fortunate. We've both still got our jobs, which we regard as being very fortunate to have that. So yeah, working full time, trying to homeschool 2 kids. Yeah, it's been a fun time. We look at it as just taking the pressure off ourselves. It's it's a unique thing that we're in at the moment. Hopefully we never have to go through it again. But it's just, cutting yourself some slack. I mean, my son, my daughter, both love their devices. You hear all the reports of, you should only be doing, 1 or 2 hours a day. Well, guess what? If it gets them through the day and they're happy and it's keeping them entertained, rightly or wrongly, for me, it's okay. It keeps calmness in the house. It keeps them happy and things like that. But you're right in regard to the engaging. I mean, I was in I'm in a IT in a sales role, so it's fast paced, it's jumping around, it's travel, so that none of those things have happened. So it's just time to stop, and it's something that even my wife have to keep reminding me to stop, slow down, spend time. The quality time is 100%. I've learned my son's built some incredible things on Roblox and all those types of things. My daughter's built some incredible things on Minecraft, and just spending those few minutes with them and understanding that, again, that is something that they like to do, meeting with them on their level, I can see really makes a difference. It's something I'm not perfect at. I need to do lots more work on it, but when I do stop and realize it, you can immediately see benefit for your kids' sake in engaging and really stopping and listening for them. So
when you're speaking about engagement, and a few of you have mentioned it, Raj, where do you think men can kind of step into that space? Like how do they do it? Because we've got this macho thing often in many cultures where men are typically supposed to be a certain way. My husband's quite sensitive, and he connects so beautifully with my daughter, and often things that I miss, he's attuned to. So he certainly doesn't fit the macho sort of image. So how can men, and I don't want to say step up because that sounds very patronizing, but how can men engage with our children with disabilities in a way, like what are some of the things they can do?
Well, I think, we have to change. Traditionally, whatever the role of a father has been, that has to change. And we need to understand that. Now, it can't be taught. You need to understand it and accept it, that things have changed in your family, let's say, and you need to, change yourself accordingly. So for me personally, it did not come as a, I mean, I didn't have to do too much work on that, simply because I never thought of myself as a macho person. So understanding, developing understanding about your family, about your children is important. So when we came across the fact that our child is different, then we had to change ourselves as well. And then this change is positive. It's not negative. It's positive change, and it's a change for better. So fathers can do a lot, but they need to realize it. It needs to come from within. That's the thing. I mean, of course, in a group like this, we can always tell them in a certain way, but it has to come from within. That realization has to come from within.
Yeah, that's good. Mello, John, did you want to jump in anywhere on that? Is there anything that you would add?
Hey, can I just say something? It was actually around what Raj is saying and what John said earlier. John was talking about, he fixes stuff, or he likes to fix stuff, and he said that it's probably something that men do, like to do. Clearly you haven't seen my handyman skills, but and on that note, and I think an extension of that would be that men maybe don't like to fail in front of people in particular. And so, and like Raj says, the change has to come from within. So your relationship with failure, whatever that might be, in terms of your definition, needs to change. And I say that because it would be a gift for your child to see you fail, and for the world not to end, for it all to be still okay. That would be a wonderful thing for them to see. And
well, that's part of learning resilience, right? And having that resilience kind of factor within your families, right? Yeah.
And so when men realize that being vulnerable to getting it wrong, and the reality is any pathway to success, when you turn around, is littered with a series of failures before you got there. And so when they allow themselves to do that, then I think that they're going to step into doing more with their children. And yeah, funnily enough, really enjoying that experience more too, because it just frees you to allow that. Sorry, John, jump in, please.
No. Perfectly put. So I got nothing else to add on that.
Nothing else to add. You covered it, Hello.
Can I also say, like, this concept of role, like for Angela and I, like, yeah, there's going to be things that one of us does, but one of the things that we said was that we have to both be able to do everything in those moments where one of us might be doing something else. And so I'd like to think that that is what's happening, or could happen. I know that from an NDIS point of view, Ange does that. And I've probably said, babe, you're a business analyst, that's your field. And I've tried to rationalize myself out of that part. But yeah, and that's just not on really. But yeah, so in terms of role,
are you confessing to this now?
Yeah.
Is that where this is going?
I am. But yeah, I think that it's important that we're able to do whatever is needed to be a parent in your home for your children. Yeah.
And I think for us in our little family, we don't fit into traditional roles either. I think we just, Chris looks at the therapy reports when he hasn't been able to do it, and is very present and very connecting in many regards. If our daughter, I didn't say earlier, but my daughter's 5, she's got Down syndrome, and from a very early age, I mean, we knew before she was born, so we had that preparation time, which I think is just wonderful, that you can go through your pregnancy and you give birth knowing that your child has Down syndrome, and preparing others, and you've got the language sorted. That's not to say it wasn't a bit of but you've got your language sorted and stuff. But he's always been present, from that early stage, and now to 5 with every area, from education to reading to play to, and I think it's that, isn't it? It's just being engaged and just like you're right, Mello, just both being over elements of your child's life. Not all the time, it's not possible, but yeah.
And you know, Deb, I run a relationship workshop, just the foundational elements of relationship, because look, the reality is that marriage as an institution, you know, the numbers are not looking good. And when you factor in, you know, that layer of complexity that raising a child with disability brings, that makes it even tougher on our relationships. But on that subject of role, and you mentioned that traditionally, you know, maybe men are often the ones who are working. What I say in the workshop is it is a cop-out for you to say, I am the main income earner, and that's why I don't do all this other stuff. That, you know, and I do an exercise in that workshop where and I call it the balance sheet, just to, you know, really, and I ask a series of questions and questions where people need to just mark who's doing that at home, just so they can see how that unfolds and where those roles fall. But yeah, I think that it's important that even as a parent, even if you're not doing those appointments, that you know what you're dealing with and how to support your child. I think that those things are very, very important.
Yeah. So we all mentioned, you know, challenges, and what is something you would say to a person, to a father on the parenting journey, that you did when there was overwhelm? What kind of things did you do when there was a level of overwhelm? Is there anything that you have in place, like timeout, or is that? John, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I understand that, because I can get frustrated with situations. Having someone on the autism spectrum can definitely heighten that frustration. I'm extremely lucky to have my wife Lisa, who's incredibly supportive and able to jump in when the time is needed. You know, during COVID lockdown, there's plenty of pressures on, so just to step away for a second and do those types of things. But the more and more you realize you need to meet your child on their level, it's not about you, it's about them. All of a sudden completely changes your perspective of a situation when your child is having a meltdown or a tantrum. It's not that they're doing it to have anything against you, it's because they're overwhelmed. They've got bottled up frustrations that they need to release, and so it's understanding, meeting them on their level again. It's a very powerful thing to understand that it's not about you, it's about them, and helping them through a situation. So that's one thing I definitely see. But look, you've got to step out. I've stepped out of it plenty of times and just had to take a moment, and again, been very fortunate to have a wife who's able to step into it. But at the same time, there's been times when she's needed to, and you step in. So that's part of being a partner and being in a partnership. You know, role playing, and I'm the breadwinner, and you know, I don't need to do those things. Yeah. I tend not to agree with that. It's if you're in a partnership, and you know, bringing up children is hard enough, and so having someone on the spectrum or someone with a disability just adds more pressure. So, you know, why do you get to check out from that? It's not fair. So
we had somebody in the chat just talking about, you know, the levels of grief that often, you know, people, maybe fathers with children with disability can experience. And, you know, he was saying about, and I won't say who it is, because maybe, you know, he didn't want to go public with this, but that grief, it often takes longer for him to absorb, and he works away, and so what element of, you know, working through, whether it, you know, it is a grief situation or whether it is a pressure situation, what Raj or Mello, did you want to jump in and say anything? Yeah, Raj, go ahead.
Yeah, so initially, this pain will be there. I still remember it's been about 10 years since the diagnosis of Mishti, but the pain is always going to be there, and we have to acknowledge it. That's the thing. I mean, just because you're a man does not mean you don't feel the pain. When you are expecting something for your child and something else happened. So that's it. So acknowledge that sadness, that pain, and let's say, I mean, if you had to cry about it, you do that. I mean, there have been times when early in the days, I had to cry, and that was okay. I mean, I was not crying in the public, or you know, I would just when I'm, let's say, in sleeping or whatever, I would probably cry out and you know, and let that pain out as much as possible. So that's one strategy, if you like. And then the closer bond you have with your child, the more connection that we've been talking about, the more connection you develop with your child. And when you see your child being happy, and when you see your child being healthy, then your pain goes away. Because it's not about you, it's about them, as we talked about. So when you start looking at life from your child's perspective, your pain, because you're feeling that pain simply because of yourself. But when you start looking at it from your child's perspective, that sadness kind of you know, takes the back seat. And occasionally you can still feel sad. For example, I can tell you from my experience, it's been 10 years, and things improve. They really do. So 10 years ago or 9 years ago, I couldn't think of sitting like this and talking about what happened to us, to our child. But today I can, without being very sad about it, because that's just the way it is. I had to accept it. I had to understand it, which I did. Now, my only goal is, how do I help my child? What more can I do so that you know, she's helped in whatever way? And going forward, that is the goal I have. And in order to meet that goal, to help my child, I need to make sure that I look after myself as well. So I can't let myself go. That's the thing. I can't afford to be sad. I can't afford to be unhappy. And there isn't really that much reason. I mean, if I focus on my child, that happiness that everybody seeks, or I was seeking, is always there. So the point is, acknowledge that grief, that pain, that sadness, but also understand that once you acknowledge it, once you work on it, it will kind of you can get over it. Yeah.
John, you mentioned before, you know, that you like to fix things, and I suppose, you know, you were talking about something different, really, but there is that element of fixing when something doesn't quite go right. You want to bring a plan to it and fix it. And I'm not saying you, I'm talking we, and maybe lots of fathers. But you know, I want to say I'm of the belief, and Reframing Disability of the belief, that disability doesn't need to be fixed. What we need to do is have a world that is more inclusive, that you know, understands the social model of disability, which is, you know, a construct around, you know, actually, if our world was more engaged with disability, we would just see that disability and difference was amazing and unique and different, and, you know, make allowances and include and stuff. But where do you sit as fathers in this space of, you can't fix it, so what are you going to do?
Oh, you definitely can't fix it. You know, there's things that can be fixed, the back door or the car or the finances or whatever the things, but this is not to be fixed. You're 100% right. If anything needs fixing, it's adjusting in yourself. It's adjusting your own mindset. That's the fix. Is understanding it more yourself. But it's focusing on the positives. I mean, we look at what things both of our kids can do, but especially our son. He's got superpowers. He's got incredible, you know, observation skills. He can, you know, name you anything about the Sydney train network. that could hold him in incredible stead for his career, for his life ahead, etc. Meeting different people. So it's celebrating the superpowers that they do have. I mean, Mello said about his daughter and the superpowers they have, and I'm sure Raj could probably list you a half a dozen, if not more, superpowers that his daughter has. But it's embracing those superpowers, and once you embrace those superpowers, all of a sudden it's not a disability, it's not a challenge. Yeah, it might be in some areas, but there's superpowers in other areas, and it's you're right, it's about the inclusion. My wife is very passionate about inclusion. She now works in an area that involves that in commercial business. And so, yeah, it is about inclusion. It's just about understanding that everybody is different, and they have a right to be different, and let them be different. So if we're all the same, it'd be a boring world. So.
Hey, can I just jump in? And there's a couple of things I want to say about both. Just on what John said, focus on the positives. Do you know what? No one says that for the sake of it, because who focuses on the negatives? Why? And that's what I was doing with Victoria. You know, when I told you I couldn't say anything about her strengths. So when someone says focus on the positives, it's like there's a reason for that. And no one, yeah, the idea that you would do anything but that just sounds crazy. So yeah, I think that focusing on the positives, yeah, when you really unpack it like that, it's like, why wouldn't you? So yeah, we're led from the medical profession in the early days, where in the way, for me at least, I was focusing on all the negatives. The other thing, you know, Raj talked about, you know, the question was around grief, and Raj talked about crying and allowing yourself to let go of these things. Yeah, the human body, that's what it does. You know, we consume stuff and then we expel the waste. And that's what we need to do with grief. We need to allow it to go through us, like everything. So that emotion needs to be processed as well. And it's neither good or bad. It just is. And it's important that we go through that experience. Because it's both good and bad. If it stays with you for so long that it can affect your health, then it's not resourceful. So I think that there's that element of when we must take care of ourselves, seeking support if we need it. Because I remember doing a training, Circle of Security, and that's not a disability specific training, but I knew that it was a powerful training. So Ange did it, said you got to do it. I did it, loved it, then became certified, and I deliver it. And I remember asking the trainer, one of the co-founders, hey, this is a program for children, but I'm going to be delivering it to parents of children of disability. And he said, one of the things that parents need to be able to do is let go of the child that they hope for, so they can really love the child that they have. And another thing that I would, because I think we're holding on still to, you know, maybe having the child that we can go to the footy with, not realizing that we can have so much fun jumping on the train, like John has already explained. And there was a poem, or there is a poem, Welcome to Holland. And I remember the first time that I read it and I hated it. I just didn't like it. And I think that was early days with Victoria. But it is such a beautiful and on reflection, such a true poem that is powerful for us all. You know, to think that you're going to land in a particular destination, and if all you do is when you land at the destination where you are is complain about not being at the other place, you'll miss out on all the great things. And I was missing out on all those great things too. So yeah, I could go on about it, but I know that, yeah, time is against us. So
yeah, we're going to need to come into land soon. But what about some of the mistakes, lads? What's some of the mistakes that have you made? And what are some of the biggest learning that you've had that has propelled you to change? Let's finish on a high note. Who wants to take that one on?
I'll finish talking and then I'll let the guys talk. Can I just say the biggest mistake I took on was to buy in to everything that the professionals told me in the early days. I don't know why it is that they're so negative, and there was really no element of hope. Everything was, Victoria would not, if anything, it was like, literally take her home and love her. You don't know how long you'll have her. Thank God Victoria didn't get that memo, because she's a happy girl that is just thriving. And I know, look, that's
and she's really hilarious, right? She's got an exceptional sense of humor, right?
Yeah. So yeah, she's getting that from one of the parents. Hello. Yeah, so that would be my biggest mistake, was buying into and believing, and that's what I think, that when you connect with others, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you can be inspired by the great things other people are doing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. What about John, Raj? Have you got anything to this?
Yeah, I'll say something.
Yeah.
So it's not so much the mistake, but an opportunity to grow. I thought that that this, because of this situation that we have been put into, it has allowed us to grow. It has allowed me to grow as a person, and I think that if this didn't happen, I wouldn't be the person that I'm today. So of course there are all kinds of things, but there is this thing that it is an opportunity to grow as a person, as a father as well. So that's my take on that, and I look at that from that positive angle, and that's what helps us to move forward. Yeah.
Brilliant. John?
Yeah, and just real quickly, it is, we've said it many a time, it's letting go of the preconceived idea you had in your mind of, taking the kids to the footy. No, we ride trains now. Getting into, old cars. My kids both, every time there's an old car drive, I look, Dad, there's a 5.3 480, and it's great family joke now, because I'm able to list off all the old car names. So it's about letting that go and enjoying what they do. So if it's trains, if it's a YouTube channel, if it's any of those types of things, if that's what makes them happy, well, then that's what we embrace. So
that's brilliant. Thank you, guys. We are coming into land now, but I read some interesting research leading up to this by, Nancy Bailey. She's a PhD. She has a PhD in education leadership, and she had on a website, and she had a look at a lot of different studies about fathers of children with disabilities and other, but mainly disabilities. And she put some really positive spin on some of these things. And this is some of the things she said. She said dads were tolerant of differences in other people when they had a child with a disability. They were able to prioritize what should be valued in their lives. They were capable of expressing and understanding to others. The especially understanding of parents with children with disabilities, they connected. And she found that several of these reports around dads, that they care about their children no matter their differences. And also that there was something, they found something unique and lovely in each child. That dads were funny, and they were fantastic at play, and that they especially brought a wonderful humor into the family. So I just thought that was really interesting, that she just studied all these different research, and that was some of the things that were coming through. And I think dads don't hear that all the time. Maybe we as parents of children with disabilities don't, but if we knew some of those things were, like what you were saying, our strengths, our superpowers, that we could bring humor into our family rather than having this negative, always this negative view of how hard disability was. And there is challenges, so we don't want to overlook that. But somebody in the chat was saying that they've been doing family quiz nights, for instance, and bringing lots of fun and entertainment into that area. So guys, does anybody, Mello, just tell us that quote one more time that you said a few moments ago. We'll finish on that, I think.
Which quote? Sorry?
Oh my gosh, the quote that you just said about... Look, Go back and listen to it. This will make everybody go and listen to it again. Because I can't remember how it went, so I don't want to do.
Was it the quote about letting go of the child that you hope to have?
That's the one. Go.
Yeah, and it is about letting go of the child that you hope to have, so you can fully love the child that you do, that's in front of you, and you will be rewarded with joy that you didn't think possible, because if you're stuck somewhere else, you just can't be where you are and where your child needs you to be. Yeah.
Beautiful, Landon. Thank you. So thank you for everybody who's joined us, and of course to our presenters today, to Mello, John and Raj. There'll be more events, and there's another panel coming up in November around the representation of disability in the media. So that's one to look out for. Please join our Facebook page. If you're on Facebook Live, thank you for joining in. Please share our work, our important work. And also there's lots of things coming up. So please connect with us if you need any supports. There's some great articles on our website, and Facebook page is a great place to join us. So thank you once again, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.